Wow. Still a preteen. Still a tween, really.
Yes.
So last week, Matt, we talked about, and we're going to talk some UFC today. Last week we talked about the Dublin card, UFC Dublin.
Yep.
That took place Saturday here, there, because there's a time difference.
Yes.
Both maybe.
Early morning, early morning here.
So
Or
that
maybe
was
in the afternoon.
That was a fight night of
Yes.
a card that was actually originally sort of drastically different, at least in the main event department.
Yes. Things got skewed multiple times.
Yeah, there was a few different hiccups.
Yes.
So both a heavyweight bout and a Dustin Poirier that would have been
Dustin Poirier, would have been a
lightweight
bout. His opponent, Joseph Duffy, got injured, so he was pulled from the card. Co-main event, Ben Rothwell versus Stipe Miocic.
What happened there?
Miocic got injured, and Rothwell got pulled from the card completely.
So that left us with the main event of Luis Smolka and Paddy Holohan. And Luis Smolka defeated Holohan by submission, a rear naked choke.
In the second round.
Mm-hmm. Smolka coming in, sort of making his mark right away, getting the finish in his. This would be his fifth UFC bout, and two of his last three have ended in him finishing the bout. So he's sort of getting together a few wins here. Maybe. What do you think? Maybe start considering him, or sort of in the. I don't know what the flyweight picture looks like.
Maybe start considering him in the elite of the flyweight. Maybe, it's.
Break down the flyweight division as best. I mean, as far as you basic,
flyweight division as best as I can. Obviously, there's Demetrius Johnson, and then you got all the contenders, but it's because it's probably the newest men's division. It would be easy for a contender to break through. We're seeing Henry Cejudo, who has been rising pretty quickly as of late. So it wouldn't be an over.
It wouldn't be too far a stretch.
Yes, it wouldn't be an overstatement to say that Smolka could potentially break through in the division. So we'll see how it goes. He's riding a bit of momentum. He got a main event opportunity when he didn't, and of note is that he finished the fight.
Yeah.
He finished the
He made the best of his,
his opportunity.
Yeah.
So he's there. We could see him probably within the next few fights, making it into the upper echelon of the flyweight division.
Yeah.
I'd potentially start listing him as a contender in the next rankings. Which I would have to check when the next rankings are going to be, but
for newer divisions, once you're a main carder, it is not that you're not that far from probably getting a pay-per-view main event or a title fight main event.
Yeah, true. If nothing else, making it onto the pay-per-view. If nothing else, making it on the pay-per-view undercard.
Okay,
maybe even making it onto the main card. It's just it's a matter of a variety of stuff, timing, and et cetera.
Right. So. The second featured, I don't know if it was the second main event, but the undercard continued as such, which was
co-main event.
It was okay.
Yeah.
Norman Park actually he defeated Reza Madidi by unanimous decision. Norman Park picking up a win after two losses, two split decision losses, so two tough losses, but sort of bouncing back now. And his UFC record it's mixed. It started off strong. He had 3 wins. He followed it up with a draw against Leonardo Santos, another win by TKO. And then lost twice in this last year, since the beginning of this year, and now he's ending the year on a good note. It looks like with a unanimous decision.
I'm trying to remember because there's actually a fighter on the UFC on the Ultimate Fighter right now who I'm looking at Madidi, but there's a participant on the Ultimate Fighter right now who kind of matches almost that description. Iranian and Sweden. I need to follow that up, but it's kind of like that's a little coincidental.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting.
And I'm trying to remember
probably,
if that's exactly him or if that
it likely
might be someone merely resembling him. Let's see. Team McGregor.
It likely wouldn't be him, right? I don't think the UFC would.
Mehdi. No, that's not the guy. Okay, I'm clearly thinking of somebody else.
So,
yeah, I'm thinking of somebody else. I know I'm thinking of somebody else.
That's all right.
It's not Spence.
Park.
Yeah, I'm thinking of somebody else.
Park.
Yeah, forget about it. Forget.
All right.
There was a little bit of a coincidence, and yeah, there's a few Swedish fighters, but
so
yeah,
Park,
I was thinking of somebody else because there's a lot of there's actually a few fighters on this season of Arabic fighters who moved to America. Or not moved to European countries.
Yeah.
So that's probably why I got thrown off, is because it was kind of an Arabic Middle Eastern person, and yeah.
All right. Iranis aren't Arabic, but that's a discussion for a later time.
Middle Eastern. Iranians are Middle Eastern.
So
I said Middle Eastern / Arabic. I did not.
Back on the Fight Night Dublin.
Yes, Fight Night Dublin.
Park got the win in a fight of little consequence in the lightweight division, to be frank. Wouldn't you say? Both of these guys are coming off of losses. One of them continues on a streak, and the other one picks up a win.
The lightweight division is just so...
It's stacked.
The last time I checked, the lightweight division is actually one of the larger divisions in the UFC. I think they may have up to like 100 people or something like that. It's the three largest divisions the last time I checked, and this was a while back, were the welterweights, the lightweights, and featherweights. You wouldn't think so with the featherweights, but those are the three largest divisions.
Yeah. Wow. And the roster really has inflated over the course of the last few years. Just in general, but it is good to see.
In order to fill in these large, the large
demand,
fight cards.
And the lightweight division has actually, I think, panned out to be one of the most exciting ones in the last 5 years.
It was kind of already exciting. Yeah, it was
since its inception, its new inception, when Shirk won.
Yes, when it was reformed, it was already a exciting division, and it's only gotten better with the years. Especially when you had undersized Frankie Edgar ruling the division. He was basically
when you had undersized Frankie Edgar.
Yeah, because he was basically fighting at his normal walk around weight. I mean, I don't think he cuts that much in order to get to. He cuts a little bit in order to get to featherweight, but it's like not It's not. It's not out of the reasonable range.
There you go,
so to speak.
He's one would describe him perhaps as more responsible with his cutting tactics.
Yes.
The rest of the card, and we'll kind of get through.
He's not like Conor McGregor, who
is extreme.
I heard Conor McGregor actually walks around at 170.
Well, that's a husky dude at that height.
Yes, he would be a huge featherweight. I'm not sure exactly what Aldo walks around at, but I'm not sure if he's as heavy or maybe a little bit lighter than McGregor. But either way, they're both big. They're both big featherweights. Yeah. Whereas, as we discussed,
Edgar is that's right about his size anyway. Yeah, which is incredible because you consider him. He's one of the stronger dudes to have been in that division as far as wrestling.
Yeah, he was he was a tactician. That's what he was. He was kind of like Randy Couture at heavyweight. He was a tactician. He went out there and he out-strategized his opponents. That's what he did. So
he's a smart fighter. What you're describing is an intelligent, combatant.
Yes, and then finally his
age and that style.
He ran into a certain guy named Benson Henderson who had, I'd argue, almost as successful of a title reign. But anyways,
not before running into Gray Maynard, right, for a snag, right? Didn't
draw. Yeah, they had a draw, and then he defeated him decisively in the rematch.
Man, those were fun fights to watch.
Which was 3. Those
were fun fights to watch.
Yeah, those were fun fights to watch. I was kind of surprised when it became a draw. I was like, What?
But those were, I mean, again, there's been a lot of life in that division since it's come back. I think going through BJ Penn's renaissance and then
it's
continuing on from then.
Yeah, it's definitely been an exciting division, and no doubt about that. But especially now, you have to be in order to differentiate yourself. Like I said, it's one of the largest divisions in the UFC. You have to be good in order to differentiate yourselves from the rest of this pack.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have to be good in order to differentiate yourself in order to get into the UFC in the first place, whether you're on the regional circuit or whatever. But then on top of that, now you have to go a step further and you have to differentiate yourself from this pack. I think the reason why the UFC rankings now are top 15 is because of the fact that it's become so inflated in divisions like I said, those three divisions: welterweight, lightweight, featherweight. Yeah. You need a top 15 in order to
really rank. Round out. The competition, or to decisively, or sort of to better define who the top contenders are.
Yes.
In such a big division.
Yes.
So this next bout, the second bout on the main card, Matt, is sort of remarkable. I don't know if you actually caught a glance at this. Nicholas Dalby versus Darren Till. They fought to a majority draw, which that in itself is not remarkable, but they both remained actually undefeated. So, which is cool, that's interesting. I didn't watch the bout. I don't know if it was an especially competitive one or not. It could have been a bore match.
Well, let's see. 29-28, that's going to be a normal fight. 28-28, that means one of those rounds was
lost point, or
it doesn't say that there was a lost point. So
a knockdown.
And there must have been a particularly dominant round for one of the fighters in order for two of the judges to consider it being
a
10-8. No, 10-8. 10-8.
Okay.
It had to be a 10-8.
Okay. Could have been a knockdown. It could have been a close. It could have.
The rest of the fight obviously was close if they scored it the way that they did, but one of those rounds had to be a particular dominant round. That's the only way they could have scored it.
So perhaps these two young men, maybe not an immediate rematch because they're both early in their careers. They're both welterweights. They're sort of starting to make their name. They're both undefeated still. I think they could probably put it off. I mean, have them both take on a couple other dudes, and if they could both
it happens, it happens.
Win, bring it back, and it'll be fun.
Yes, if it happens, it happens. If not, then
let's exactly. I think
there's plenty of other. There's literally plenty of other fish in the sea, and that is the UFC.
Sort of. This is a sort of reflexive response on our behalf because forums explode right away. Oh, rematch for every single fight. It's like chill. It'll it's everyone will. It'll
come.
It'll
come. Yes, it'll come when it happens. But until then, you need to be patient.
The first bout on the main card of UFC Dublin.
Oh yeah, another flyweight. Neil Seery versus John De Los Reyes.
We opened talking about the flyweights. This further builds on that. What do you think? Neil Seery, he submitted him. He submitted Reyes.
Yeah, Seery's actually been getting up there. I think he's probably on our honorable mentions list in our rankings.
Yeah.
So he's definitely been up there. I think he probably could within a few fights, if he continues winning, he might be able to break into the top 10. Whether he's eventually going to challenge for the title, that has yet to be seen. There's so many things that have yet to be seen, but we'll definitely see how that goes with him.
And that's always cool to see a relative hometown guy get the victory.
Home territory. Let's
home
put
territory.
It that way.
Exactly.
He is Irish.
Exactly. And this is coming off a loss to, tonight's main event winner, Smolka. He was able to turn around against Reyes, and again, we talked about the flyweight division. This is a matter of Neil Seery bounces back and is able to remain relevant even after having suffered a loss just earlier this year.
Yeah, it's like I said, some of the lighter division or some of the smaller divisions, it'll definitely be easier for a fighter to bounce back and be able to reestablish himself as a contender in the division. Now, with flyweight, that's a lot easier because, like I said, smaller division. newer division, it's pretty easy to establish themselves because even with all the contenders in the division, all the veterans, it's still pretty young. I don't know if any is Mighty Mouse even 30. Oh, wait, he is. He and John Dodson are 30, but these aren't, early 30s. These aren't fighters who have been fighting for a particularly long time. Mm-hmm. It's not an established division unless you're talking someone from Shuto, but they're not.
Even historically is what you mean, right? I mean, it's not a division that's exactly Shuto. Those are Eastern. Those were Japanese organizations, and that sort of mixed martial arts was not common over here until the 90s, and early, at least what was considered rather early mixed martial arts in the States did not feature smaller bouts with smaller fighters that way until the mid to late 90s, I don't think.
I'd argue 2000s. I'd argue that they didn't even start featuring until that time, because the weight classes weren't established until probably
King of the Cage. Nothing sort of regional like that had stuff that was smaller. WEC, right?
I don't think so. Yeah, WEC. Yeah, they established kind of more of them. They started utilizing them more. I think they were probably one of the first promotions to start using the bantamweights and the featherweights. Hence, why the lineages now could easily trace their. The UFC featherweight and bantamweight lineages can be traced back to those original titles, those directly, almost, unless you're considering Dominic Cruz and vacating the title. But if he actually does beat Dillashaw, then that could, it's definitely, that's where the convergence is, and that's where those lineages can be traced to those original WEC titles that were established. So.
And that was all part of the UFC absorbing the WEC in the same fashion that they had. Rather, that happened first. I apologize. Well, no, Pride went first, followed by the WEC, followed by Strikeforce.
Yes, followed by. And of note is that Zuffa did try to run Strikeforce as they ran the WEC, but the problem was there were too many issues there. They were trying to. There were portions that they were trying to run like a developmental league, but it's rather hard to run something as a developmental league when they were trying to rival you to a degree. So they had they basically they basically raided the Strikeforce roster. They imported all their heavyweights in there.
It's in the similar fashion. So it was a slower process, I think, each time. So, what I mean by that is when he initially purchased Pride, the first things he said were along the lines of considering just letting it operate as its own entity.
What the original plan was for Pride was to run Pride in the UFC, almost akin to they made a direct reference to the AFL NFL merger. Mm-hmm. That didn't happen mainly because that didn't happen mainly because of the fact that by that time Pride was there were all these accusations with the Yakuza. Once something is publicly associated with the Yakuza, Japanese don't want anything to do with it. Yeah, because they've got that bad history and they just don't want
that might be the case.
Like
after the absorption of Pride, that then came the absorption of the WEC, and am I remembering correctly that it was also sort of, he alluded to maybe even the same deal there, or was it always, it's no longer in existence, it's now mine?
It's kind of funny because when they started running the WEC, the reason why they bought the WEC and got it on Versus, what is now the NBC Sports Network, the reason why they did that in the first place was to basically block the IFL from getting a TV deal. That was the one and only purpose, because UFC was hooked into Spike, so they couldn't do that. So, but they're like, okay, we don't want this to happen. So they bought WEC, hooked them in with
What cut the deal with Versus?
With Versus, what is now NBC Sports, and they stopped IFL from getting a TV deal. Ultimately, IFL ended up going to My Network TV. I remember watching some of those fight cards actually.
Yeah, I think I might have caught one. I think My Network was the sort of the affiliate. It's like an affiliate. It was what UPN was, at least in Southern California, 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, My Network has had this very weird history ever since they got started. Ever since the UPN
wrestling stuff too, right? My Network had.
I think they at one point had SmackDown.
There you go.
Yeah, they've experimented a lot with all these different types of programming over the years. And I think nowadays they just do syndication, but they genuinely tried to. I think they are Fox owned.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of crisscross between those two.
They offer them a lot of the shows for their syndication.
But yeah, Fox actually tried to run them at one point. I'm guessing, but at one point they actually tried to run My Network TV as an actual network, and they were experimenting with all these different programs. They, like I said, they had. They
included SmackDown as part of their primetime.
Yes, like I said, they had SmackDown. They at one point got the IFL. They're all doing these weird novel
deals here and there.
They were doing these weird novel dramas, and then they just tried to keep experimenting until I guess they just said, oh, you know what, we'll just go with that.
And that's kind of an odd sort of, background on some MMA history.
And also I've noticed the fact that Bodog Fight was on Ion Television at one point.
I forget that.
Yeah. I'd say that was actually, in terms of prime time network TV, I'd say that was almost a heyday, because at that time not only did you have that, but I think you also had the Elite XC strike for CBS.
In MMA rather.
Yeah, that was. Nowadays it's a little bit more established on
the web, or not the web. Sorry, cable, right?
Cable and the web too. Okay. You have stuff like UFC Fight Pass. You see the XFC putting their stuff on the web as well. So it's kind of diversified, yeah. But So anyways.
Matt, earlier you mentioned that you also sort of found some news. You wanted to sort of go over a few different points. I don't know if the Fedor one was the one you immediately but I think the notes might have fallen. There we are.
Sorry for these technical difficulties.
That's all right. I don't know. Go over some of that stuff.
Okay, so this last week, the big news: Jon Jones has been cleared by the UFC. What happened was, obviously, UFC stripped Jon Jones of the title right after after he got arrested, and
the cocaine scandal. Oh no!
It wasn't that. It was the.
Instinctively, I brought that up.
It was. Sorry. There were issues there, but
that doesn't matter. It was. What was it? Remind me. It was the.
It was the hit and run.
Here we are. Sorry. Apologies. Yeah, continue.
So the hit and run. So he was stripped of the title. Put the UFC indefinitely suspended him until they he basically got his crap together.
Well, and also until further notice, as far as it was. That was how they framed it, but it was until further notice, and this is the further notice that we've received, right?
So he, the court proceedings went through. He's getting probation. So the UFC decided, he's got his act together.
You mentioned
not only that, but there's videos of him training. There
was never any commission suspension or nothing like that.
Yeah, no, there was never a commission suspension.
So nice training. He's back. He's back at it.
He's back. And obviously. The premise is that if he ever came back, he would get an automatic title shot. Which now that he's back, he's leapfrogging Ryan Bader, who was supposed to get the title shot. He is leapfrogging Ryan Bader into the title shot with Daniel Cormier, and Cormier is looking forward to this. So my guess is this fight's probably going to be scheduled early 2016. Is my guess, because we have all the pay-per-views, main events scheduled into January. So my guess is it's going to be the February. It's probably within the first quarter, I'd imagine, along with Cain Velasquez, the rematch with
what we spoke about last time, the Cain match, maybe the Anderson Silva match.
Yeah, so
a bummer sort of for Ryan Bader, but I mean, really, the fans would probably rather see Jones versus Cormier.
Yeah,
I think.
Yes, yeah. So hopefully he gets the title shot after that. I'd really like to see that.
Okay.
I'd really like to see that.
I know you don't like the rubber match right away, but that people, I think, will be in the mood for a third. If Jones wins it, let's say, I think they would be ready for that fight.
I don't.
Oh no! I mean, if
Cormier wins
it, I think they'll be ready for that fight right away.
Yes, I could see a rubber match.
Sorry, that's how I meant. But yeah, sure, Bader. Yeah. I mean,
if Jones wins, it's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
He beat him twice. What's the point of matching him up again unless he earns that title shot back?
I'm with you.
So that's John Jones. Then
what else happened? What else has happened the last couple days?
Yes, of other sorry news is the fact that Glory Kickboxing is not being renewed on Spike TV. They had one fight card after the Dynamite fight card, and after that, the deal with Spike came due, and Spike decided not to renew it. So,
kickboxing's never really gotten any real traction in the States.
That is true, but they were on Spike for a few years. They've been on Spike for a few years, as long as Bellator. So it's kind of sad to see that happen.
Still a fringe sport, still sort of an acquired taste, at least I think out here it tends to be.
Yes. So, but then that leaves open. It's like, does that mean there's going to be no more Dynamite cards? Does that mean we're indeed going to see a return to pro wrestling?
And this is right on the heels of that too. So that's that changes that picture a little bit.
I'm beginning to wonder if maybe that had to do with the fact that it wasn't renewed, because I heard the ratings weren't that good, and then on top of that, that fight card was underwhelming.
Yeah,
particularly
we talked about it being disappointing.
Part. Yeah. So
I mean,
it is what it is.
There you go. I mean, there you go. Hopefully, it carves some room for another. The next more successful kickboxing.
Maybe
organization.
I don't know, because they try. Spike tried to do an online deal with K1 back when they still had that weird limbo state where they had access to the UFC library but couldn't really do any other live programming except for that MMA live program, which was a news program. But
the Boss Room.
Yes, no, that's Access TV.
My mistake.
This was Nate Quarry.
There we are.
Yeah. So. And which also is the one that introduced Luke Thomas to me, because he started out as a correspondent, and then he started out as one of the regular commentators on the show.
Awesome.
So, they tried to do it with K1, and they were just showing online deals with these online shows at K1. But I watched a few of them. But the problem was K1 was a shell of what it's still a shell of what it used to be. The glory days of K1 are they're basically done.
Yeah.
So and they do have current champions, but they're all kind of lighter weight champions. They're all I'd like to say 170, maybe 180 is the heaviest champion that they've got in K1. So I just don't see another kickboxing organization unless something pops up, because all the best kickboxing talent right now is with Glory. Like I said, K1's a shell of what it used to be.
Mixed martial arts has helped develop a taste for other sorts of combat sports besides boxing as well.
Well, and another thing, I'm wondering if maybe since Reason, since Reason has a deal with Spike, maybe that's where Spike is looking to invest. That missed airtime, that extra airtime maybe is in another mixed martial arts organization, which Scott Coker is willing to eventually partner with. So maybe that's where they're looking at it. Maybe they're looking at getting another pro wrestling promotion, maybe Ring of Honor. That's one name that comes to mind there. Maybe after, I don't know what the details of the Ring of Honor deal is with Destination America, but maybe
it would be a step up for them, yeah, for Ring of Honor.
Yeah, it would be. That's probably the most. That's probably that would probably be the highest exposure that they've ever gotten, because Destination America is currently their pinnacle of TV programming, because they just haven't been able to get up that far. But I don't know. Like I said, depends on
speculation.
Depends on that deal. Depends on what Spike wants to do. Whether they want to whether they want to concentrate on entertainment or whether they want to concentrate on legitimate stuff. They do have boxing there. Maybe eventually a boxing crossover, because I could honestly see a hybrid show with boxing and MMA being more popular stateside, because we know boxing is boxing has gone up and down, but it's kind of consistent right now.
Yeah,
it draws people stateside.
And it's such a cultural institution in the U.S., I think, that enough people have had it part of it. Even though it's waned in popularity, I think it's still sort of part of everybody's life. It's still such a kind of a popular thing. Rocky and boxing movies are still popular. And so
there's the Rocky spinoff coming up.
And there you go. See, like we said,
Paul Creed, about Paul Creed's
yes, I've
son.
heard.
I'm actually looking forward to that.
It'll be all right.
Yeah.
So Matt, if it's okay with you,
one more.
Because we have to test for the interview in a little bit.
Little quick tidbit though.
And this will wrap it up.
Yes, this will wrap it up. So other news on Rezine. This was from Ariel Hawani, is that he said that the Indian guy who's been talked about as Fedor's
opponent.
Next opponent. Why is this thing being so slow?
Well. What was the point?
Singh. Singh was his name. Yeah. So, but the Indian guy, as it apparently
Singh.
Yeah. Jadeep Singh.
Jadeep Singh.
Yeah, Jadeep Singh. Apparently, he's going to be a last resort fighter for Fedor should it come down to that. But what they're trying to do is they're actually trying to find a fighter who has more of a following in Japan. That's the goal in trying to find a opponent. And before that, they were even looking at like Saul Palele, Sean Jordan, Randy Couture as possibilities for an opponent for Fedor. But I think Vanderlei has also been mentioned as well, though he's the UFC's kind of blocking him with the fact that they still have under contract. I wonder how long that's going to last if they, keep him and don't fight him. That can only last so long. But then also with Rezine, Gabriel Garcia, who's a Jiu-Jitsu world champion, appeared on The Ultimate Fighter Brazil 3 with Team Vanderlei. She's been mentioned as being on tap for fighting in the card as well. A potential opponent for her is former TNA wrestler named Ledi Tapa.
All right.
That sounds Samoan. I wonder if she's part of the Samoan family that The Rock is a part of. Which also,
who knows?
Which also apparently Roman Reigns is a part of too.
I knew that.
I did not know that they
Rikishi.
were. Yeah. Yes, Rikishi, Yokozuna, the Usos.
There you go.
Yeah. So just.
But who knows? So what do you think, Matt? Well, call it a week.
Yes, and very, 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 very brief thing about this coming weekend on Halloween. This is like the first.
Very briefly.
Yes, this is going to be the first KSW's first appearance in the Polish promotion. This is going to be their first appearance in London, and the main event is Poods versus Peter Graham.
All right, and Mariusz Pudzianowski versus Peter Graham.
Of course, James McSweeney is also on the card, and Jesse Taylor is apparently fighting for the welterweight championship. Jesse Taylor, who's a local a local boy. He wrestled at Cal State Fullerton.
Okay.
And but okay, that's it. So we could talk more about that next week with the results. But anyways, that's it.
It's sort of a local shout out to Jesse Taylor, right?
Yes,
I mean, he's a local OC guy.
Yeah. So that's the major event. So that's our sum up.
All right.
So yeah, that's our show. Now we're going to work on the interview with
Miss Ashley Yoder.
Yes, we will upload that separately. So
yeah, so thank you everybody. This has been you first.
Yep. Okay.
Twitter handle too.
Yes, I'm at Matthew Salzer on Twitter.
And I am Edson Valenzuela. You can find me at Edson_V. Sign us off.
And we are at MMA Freakout.
Say hi to Hef.
MMA-freak.com. Oh, thanks, Hef. I think it's at Heffy Jr.
At Heffy Jr.
Yes. And
you can find him if you find us.
Yes. So thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.